Thank you very much, Sophie. I really enjoyed the previous panel with Dana and Raki, and I think it's a clear example that most of the challenges that we are facing nowadays, when we read the news or if we check around us, show that from an environmental, social, and economic point of view, there are many reasons to believe that we are exceeding by long the limits that both our societies, we're seeing here about the labor issue in supply chains. So we are exceeding the limits that our people and our planets can take. I know that the analysis is complex, it's very complex, and it does need a multi-dimensional approach. And I think it's very good that we previously had this conversation around supply chains and the fashion industry, which is a very important sector, and we all know the challenges that they are facing. And now we have here three invited speakers or panelists that with whom we will be exchanging opinions and insights. And they are from the, well, I'm going to go directly to the introduction. We first have Gurnoor Bindra here on screen. Welcome, Gurnoor. She's one of the youngest millennial female married Middle East leaders. So she has successfully led the team at Aloft Dubai Creek through her innovative and analytical skills towards driving exceptional results. And she also describes herself as passionate for sustainability. So two of us already. Welcome. Thank you, Gurnoor. And then we have Paul Marshall. Dr. Paul Marshall is head of a newly established natural reserve, which is NEOM. It's a 25,000 square kilometer region that will protect 95% of nature in Saudi Arabia. And it's a giga project. And he's also an adjunct professor at James Cook University in Australia. And of course, a passionate advocate of nature. And then we also have Clement Blanc. He's managing director of DHL, Global Forwarding South Africa. It's interesting to see also the regions we are talking to, a new insight. And Clement has more than 2 decades experience in logistics industry and has spent 18 years with DHL Global Forwarding. Sorry. So I do think that today we are going to explore how sustainability is finding new ways of maintaining, which is actually sustaining, okay, maintaining over time our living standards, rethinking our business models, and also taking into consideration all of the people and the different stakeholders, natural stakeholders also, that are into the equation. So we have seen that there has been, during the past decades, actually, since the Industrial Revolution, we have seen that there has been like a trade-off between nature and development, okay? We had to choose one or another. These past years, we've been facing due to COVID especially, we are facing a stressful economic situation. And we know that many institutions are committed to a fair and sustainable social contract while dealing with survival issues. So I would like to ask each of you, maybe in order of that I introduced you, how is it that your companies are finding creative solutions to pursue social and economic development without destroying the planet? Maybe we start with you, Gurnoor. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Isabella. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I think I was just, because I was one of the speakers on the panel, I was looking at, well, what is sustainability? What is human sustainability? And interesting enough, the definition said it is to improve human capital. And I think that just gets me back to the point when we, as one of the Marriott hotels in Dubai, looked at our workforce and looking at our workforce to see how can we improve human capital with giving some skills and mentorship and development, getting them in the ecosystem of hospitality, and then getting them prepared to go back to their countries and contribute to their communities. So one of the examples was when we partnered with a nonprofit organization called Evolving Women, who currently are working with a couple of African countries to actually give opportunities to women from underprivileged backgrounds and who do not get their fair opportunities to get international exposure and work with the big brands, and be part of an environment that kind of gives them, puts them at par with a lot of others who went to the better colleges or went to great institutes. So this is just one of the pictures to show the three girls. They actually joined us from Rwanda, and they joined our Aloft family about 4 months ago. And the picture in the center is her actually with the guest who have given her a gift, because how they really found her engaging and happily serving their experience to stay at the hotel. So I think it just brings us back to the fact that when we try to improve human capital by giving them the right opportunities, they're naturally more motivated. And I think the environment we kind of operate our businesses in, it just gives us another mission, which is beyond making money. Because if you look at corporate sustainability, it's got the three key pillars. One is, of course, the environmental side, which we all talk about, which talks about carbon footprint and the zero waste, which again, Marriott is very big in. We've got our goals and our actions. And then there's the social element, which is the skill development element. And then the third is the governance that we all kind of comply with. So just on the skill development, I think it's that circle of development. So you identify the opportunities from the people that you can help. You get them in the system. You train, develop, mentor. They become part of the system. They go back to their countries. They either open their own businesses. They work in another brand. They support their families, and that just makes it a better place to live in. And getting them ready to cope up with such higher stress of business developments, because the multiplication of scale of businesses is also leading to higher stress and difficult for people to be part of it, I guess. So I think that was one of the examples.
Okay, so I didn't know if it was my connection or if it was Gurnoor's. Uh, okay, I was like, oh my God. So while Gurnoor fixes her connection, maybe even though I know I said in order, but as I think Paul would go more into the environmental side of the question, maybe Clement, if you want to jump in, because I know you will be tackling both issues, social and environmental. And Gurnoor was talking more about the people and the training, which we will go back to the training. So what are the challenges and the innovative approaches that you are using at DHL?
Yes, thank you very much, and very happy to be here. I will first touch on the environment, because we spoke earlier about obviously saving the planet. About 10% of the carbon emission globally is from logistics. And we are Deutsche Post DHL. We are the largest logistics company in the world. Our own carbon emission, logistics carbon emission is about 3.5 billion tons of CO2 per year. And we, as our group, we represent about 33 million tons of CO2 emission. And we know that it starts by us reducing our emissions. So we have very clear targets, and these are science-based targets. So we have already committed by that 2050, we would reach zero carbon emission. Obviously, I heard earlier about greenwashing, and this is exactly why I said it's a science-based target, because we have very, very clear path. So first, it's not just a 2050 target. We already have a target for 2030 that we will emit less than 27 million tons. So already from 33 to 27. But then how are we going to do that? So first, we committed to invest 7 billion euro from now till 2030 in green technologies. but we have already started, of course. So there are a few different areas. First of course, we look at transportation. So it's about getting green vehicles, electrical or equivalent vehicles that are cleaner. For example, in Germany, we wanted to do our deliveries with electrical vehicles. We could not find the right vehicles, so we even built our own factory to build our own vehicles, electrical vehicles. That was how committed we were on that subject. And now everywhere in the world, we are looking at solutions that in converting our existing vehicles fleets into electrical or biofuels. But it's not just about the road transportation. It's also about, of course, the network optimization, making sure we don't have any. We spoke about waste in the fashion industry. There is waste also in the logistics industry. There are trucks coming back empty, so it's also about finding solutions to make sure that the trucks are being optimized all the way. It's also about the planes. So we have just announced a purchase of a new planes from a company called Eviation. So these are electrical solar planes. So the wings are covered with solar panels, and they are absolutely purely solar generated. And these will be started in a few years in Europe. It's for about 500 kilometers range, smaller size, but these are very important to us because by investing in these kind of solutions, we make the research go further. And by making the research go further, we hope that the scientists and the engineers will find better solutions and will then invest in the future, basically. And it's also about our facilities, is having all our facilities covered with solar panels, of course, in countries where it makes sense. For example, for us in Johannesburg, we just built a new warehouse and we are installing solar panels on the roof. So it's really a lot of different things that we are looking at in order to reduce our carbon emissions. It's also about, even for the ocean freight, using biofuels. So we have committed that all our ocean freight consolidation services will be using biofuels starting last year. It was announced in May last year. And again, we are really monitoring, and it's not just about having nice targets. It's also every year we commit to publish the results and to track them. And again, with independent neutral parties, because we want to make sure we get the right visibility on where we are and we do the right things. So yeah, the sustainability obviously has a cost. It's not, okay, when I speak about the solar panels, actually, we just found out that it will be even cheaper for us to have our warehouse generated by the sun than from the grid. But obviously, when you invest in new electrical vehicles or planes, there is a cost to that. But our CEO has actually advocated at the last World Economic Forum. He has asked that governments increase the carbon tax. So it's how committed we are. We want to be taxed for the carbon because we think that as a global economy, there must be a price to pay for that. And then sustainability and green solutions will become comparatively cheaper. And we are committed, as I said, to spend 7 billion euro in the next 9 years now for greener energies and greener solutions. But we are prepared to pay the cost because I think, and we believe as a group, that not investing and not spending now will cost us much more in the future.
Yeah, I want to extract a couple of ideas of what you said here. You were talking about those vehicles coming back empty. Okay, so it's also about a logistics issue, no? How can I partner maybe with someone that does the other way so that I can reduce my carbon footprint? And another idea that I was thinking of is how to deliver also to those people that live in areas that are more far apart, that they are not left behind in this transition. So I will leave those concepts there. And I think, Paul, that we will all have to end up investing in natural reserves, such as the project you have between your hands, so that we can neutralize a lot of our carbon footprint, won't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Bring it on. Look, great to be here. Thank you for the chance to share some of the NEOM experience. I'll just clarify that you were overly generous in your introduction, and that while I am heading up this new nature reserve, and it is a key project for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, it's not 95% of Saudi Arabia. I wish I was. I'll exceed all ambition. As a moment of background, NEOM is a new project that's been established by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia as part of its Vision 2030 plan to help transition the kingdom into a new economy that's not fossil fuel dependent. And part of the key intention with NEOM is to create the entire economic system from scratch, and including the development of cities that will accommodate eventually millions of people, but to do all this in a way that both accelerates human progress and is done in harmony with nature. So it's that last bit, of course, that's very exciting for me. And what's really interesting about the NEOM experiment is that when you look at how you design cities and, in fact, civilizations from scratch, it's very obvious that you have to do this in a way that fully respects and protects nature. And it's not just something you do as a sort of whimsy or a luxury. It's actually fundamentally necessary for the long-term economic and social development and the success of a society. And when you think about, when you look across the world and you start to look at the numbers, nature isn't something that you protect as a luxury. I mean, it's a fundamental capital that underpins everything we do. We've sort of lulled ourselves into this idea that because we live in a brick house in the middle of a city, that we don't depend on nature anymore. And it's completely wrong. So humanity depends on nature deeply and fundamentally. And if we don't integrate that dependency into everything we do and every decision we make, then we are going to be lost. And that's what everybody's fearing, right? Everybody's talking of the global narrative is how we're unsustainable. We're on a path of self-destruction. And that already it takes 1.6 Earths to support the lifestyle that we have across the planet. And if you actually look at the numbers, each year, the natural world, biodiversity and ecosystems underpin $24 trillion of economic activity. So why would you destroy that? In fact, it's not about not destroying it. We should be investing in it and improving it. Protecting and enhancing capital is what all businesses do for success. And nature is a fundamental source of capital. So when you actually can afford to look at a system from scratch without having to work with the legacy of 100 years of industrial development that didn't have the knowledge and the wisdom that we have now about our dependency on nature and the limitations or the limited nature of the environment, you can actually see it with eyes. And what's happened is, despite the intention of NEOM to be a major economic driver of the future of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, that the project and its sponsors, which include His Royal Highness, the Prince Mohammed bin Salman, have committed to protecting 95% of NEOM for nature conservation. And the urban footprint, which will accommodate millions of people, is going to be confined to just 5%. And that's an incredible commitment to make. And we're now planning all of the economic development around that commitment. So that's really exciting. And it shows that it can be done when you understand how important nature is, when you're committed to your own sustainability, and this is the privilege we have, you have the opportunity to build something from scratch. So this, by doing it here, we don't solve the problems of the world, but we show that the problems of the world, particularly the big problem about how we reconcile people and planet, that there are solutions for it. So if we can accelerate the demonstration of what those solutions look like, we hope to make it easier for the rest of the world to also make the transition that it's all striving for.
Yes. So you were saying humanity depends on nature. This is something I like to highlight. Well, 50%, I think, of the world's GDP is dependent on nature somehow. And the funny thing is that we don't care if you're destroying biodiversity and polluting in Saudi Arabia, or if you're in South Africa, in Spain, Middle East, wherever. We all share the same planet, the same atmosphere. The gases are accumulating the same anywhere. So the effects will be each of us will notice them differently, but they are all going to affect us. So it's an economic value that we have to preserve. So actually, I work in the university, in IE University, and this is why we think that the transformation in the mindset, okay, so understanding that sustainability is not about others to worry about, but it's what each of us can do, no? And here you're bringing some examples, is very important. Taking ownership and being accountable for your actions. Thinking of not a cost, but an investment in this transition. I know that starting from scratch can be easier. Actually, there's a huge opportunity there. But of course, we cannot forget that many companies or projects were already there. And Clement started saying about some of the in economic value, the investments that you were planning. And I like the word investment and not the cost of transition. And it's also about reskilling the people. There's a huge opportunity of new jobs that will be created, but we also have people who were already there, and we have to invest in them, no, so that they can act and be in their new jobs, doing the right thing. So, Gurnoor, do you want to, as you were just talking about that when the sound went off, if you want to continue there? Yeah, thanks.
Sure. I'm not sure where I went off, but I think I just connect back to where I was talking about a workforce which is sustainable. I think when we started off with this initiative, there was a bit of uncertainty of how it would go. They're not trained and skilled for hospitality. They come from a completely different culture. They've never been to Dubai. But I think the fact that they were just waiting for the right opportunity to evolve and develop their skills, there was a lot of motivation. And the support from the team was very solid because we were trying to achieve.
I'm afraid Gurnoor has problems with yeah. Okay. So I'm sorry we cannot hear her properly because we lost her again. So maybe as we're kind of running out of time, I would really like to have a comment first on Clement and then Paul's side on how is it that, I mean, what's the most exciting part of this new transition and way of living for you from your company side or project in case of Paul? And what are you more excited about here now? Sorry, Clement.
Okay, I can start here. Yeah, thanks. I mean, for me, the most exciting thing is yes, we have a problem. Clearly, we need to reduce our carbon emissions, but companies like ours are taking the lead and are genuinely taking the lead in reducing the impact on the environment, and being the largest logistics company in the world, we are also the 11th largest employer in the world. So we have almost 600,000 people. It's also quite exciting because we are not only doing these investments, but also we are training our employees on all these social and environmental issues. And we want that each and every employee of the company becomes themselves the advocate to change the world. And this is, to me, what is the most exciting is that we have a massive power to change things. Of course, we always can say that the consumer is responsible, but I think companies have a huge power and a huge responsibility to change things. And being part of these companies and having really a clear commitment from the top, with all the resources that are being given to achieve it, to me, that's amazing. I mean, I think we are really entering a new era where we don't just speak about it, but we take action and we do it fast. And we don't have time anymore anyway.
Yeah, and you're a huge global company, so lots of people there that depend on you. It's amazing there. Yeah, Paul, I was thinking if I don't know if there are local populations in the natural reserve that you also have to take into consideration, or is it a virgin site? Just to know also if that's part of the challenge of this amazing project.
It's an interesting place because there's very few people who live in this area. It's the northwest of Saudi Arabia, very regional. There's a city on the outside the border of NEOM, but inside there's only a few small communities. But they're actually a really great opportunity for us because there is an amazing connection with the landscape here from these people. I mean, these people mostly are descendants and still consider themselves to be Bedouin of the desert. And so one of the things we want to do is create experiences for people that bring to life not just nature, but the connection between people and nature. And so the people who've lived here for a long time, even those who live in the city, still feel quite connected to the landscape here, the mountains, the desert, the sea. So bringing them into the management of this reserve is one of the things we're very excited about. And again, one of the things that I'm most excited about is to create opportunities for people to re-engage with nature. I mean, when I hear Clement speak, the thing that's wonderful to hear is how much businesses are realizing that it's really empowering for people to be able to exercise their care for the environment. I mean, it's really interesting. Rare, the organisation, has done some fascinating research. If people don't know about, they should look it up. But you ask, if you do research on what are the most powerful motivators of person's behaviour, you think hate, fear, love. It's actually pride. And so pride is an incredible motivator of behavioural change. And when was the last time you asked somebody who said, oh, I really like damaging the environment? Nobody does. If they do it, they feel like it's because they have to make money or because their job makes them do it. So when you create opportunities for your employees to exercise stewardship over the environment, they become proud. And when they become proud, they become empowered. So I think there's an amazing opportunity to help people reconnect with nature, with what's in all of us, which is a love for nature. And of course, with that, people get all the benefits of time in nature, better health, better psychological resilience, better general well-being. So there's so much to be had by reconnecting people with nature in whatever form, and whether it's by an experience or whether it's by a chance to exercise stewardship. To me, the more of this we do, the faster we get onto the path we need to, where people and planet can live together.